Who would ever imagine that a woman's own sister could betray her in the worst way possible? Just months after her wedding, she discovered that the two people she trusted the most were hiding a secret relationship. Today, we're going to uncover what really happened. Hey guys, this is my first divorce case reveal story on YouTube. I hope you like and support me for hard work. My name is Emily Carter. I've spent more than 20 years working around divorce cases, helping couples navigate one of the most painful chapters of their lives. Over the years, I've seen many marriages end for many different reasons: money, betrayal, resentment, or sometimes simply growing apart. But every once in a while, a case comes along that stays with you long after the paperwork is finished. Today, I want to tell you about one of those cases. This is the story of a woman named Emma. Emma came to my office looking completely shattered. She wasn't angry the way many clients are when they first walk through the door. She wasn't even crying anymore. Instead, she had that quiet, distant look people often have when something so shocking happens that their mind is still trying to process it. Her marriage had lasted less than a year. But the betrayal that ended it didn't come from a stranger. It came from someone she trusted her entire life: her own sister. Emma was 29 years old when she met Daniel. They met through mutual friends at a small birthday gathering. Daniel was charming, easy to talk to, and had the kind of calm personality that made people feel comfortable around him almost immediately. For Emma, the relationship moved quickly, but it felt natural. Within months, they were spending nearly every day together. Her family liked him. Her parents believed he was responsible and respectful. And perhaps most importantly, her younger sister, Lily, seemed to get along with him very well. At the time, Emma thought nothing of it. In fact, she was happy that the two most important people in her life seemed to connect so easily. After about a year of dating, Daniel proposed. It wasn't an extravagant proposal, just a quiet evening dinner followed by a simple ring and a nervous question. Emma said yes without hesitation. Their wedding was small but beautiful. Friends and family gathered in a quiet garden venue, the kind of place filled with soft lights and warm laughter. Emma's sister Lily stood beside her the entire day as her maid of honor, helping her with the dress, fixing her hair, and making sure everything went perfectly. Looking back later, Emma would tell me something that still sends chills down my spine. She said the two people standing closest to her on the happiest day of her life were the same two people who would later destroy her marriage. But of course, Emma had no way of knowing that at the time. For the first few months after the wedding, life seemed exactly how she had always imagined married life would be: calm, comfortable, normal. Daniel worked during the day, Emma continued her job, and in the evenings they cooked dinner together or watched movies on the couch. Sometimes Lily would visit as well. She lived nearby and often stopped by for dinner or weekend coffee. Emma thought it was wonderful that her family remained close even after the wedding, but slowly, very slowly, small things began to change. At first, they were things easy to ignore. Daniel started staying later at work more often. Lily began visiting the house when Emma wasn't there. And there were moments, small, strange moments, when Emma would walk into a room and suddenly the conversation between them would stop. At the time, Emma told herself she was imagining things. But deep down, something inside her was beginning to feel uneasy. And one night, just a few months after the wedding, something happened that would make all those small doubts suddenly feel very real. As a divorce lawyer, I've learned something important over the years. Most betrayals don't begin with a dramatic moment. They begin quietly, with small changes that are easy to dismiss. That's exactly how it began for Emma. At first, Daniel's longer work hours didn't seem unusual. After all, many couples go through busy periods after getting married. Emma told herself he was simply focused on building their future, but then something else started to happen. Lily began visiting the house more often. At first, Emma thought it was sweet. Her sister had always been close to her, and she liked the idea of family remaining involved in her life even after marriage. Sometimes Lily would stop by in the afternoon while Emma was still at work. Daniel would mention it casually later in the evening. "Your sister came by earlier," he would say. "She just wanted to say hello." Emma never questioned it. Why would she? Lily was her sister, someone she had trusted her entire life. But over time, small details began to feel strange. Daniel seemed unusually comfortable around Lily. Sometimes Emma would catch them laughing together about something she didn't understand. Other times, when she walked into the room unexpectedly, their conversation would stop almost immediately. At first, Emma blamed herself for feeling suspicious. She told herself she was overthinking things. After all, jealousy between family members didn't make sense. It sounded ridiculous even in her own mind. But the feeling wouldn't go away. Then one evening, something happened that Emma could not ignore. Daniel had left his phone on the kitchen counter while he went upstairs to take a shower. Emma wasn't the kind of person who normally looked through someone else's phone, but that night the screen suddenly lit up with a notification. It was a message. Emma didn't mean to read it at first, but the words were visible before the screen went dark again. "Last night was a mistake. We can't keep doing this." The sender's name was hidden under a nickname. Emma stood there staring at the phone for several seconds, trying to convince herself there had to be some innocent explanation. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe it was meant for someone else. Maybe it was nothing at all. But something deep inside her told her the message was not innocent. Her heart started beating faster. For the first time since the wedding, Emma felt a cold sense of fear creeping into her thoughts. She told herself she needed proof before accusing anyone of anything. So she waited. Over the next few days, Emma began paying closer attention to the small things she had once ignored. She noticed Daniel keeping his phone closer to him than usual. She noticed Lily suddenly canceling plans whenever Emma suggested spending time together. And one evening, Emma noticed something else. Daniel said he had to work late again. But when Emma checked his office website later that night, she discovered something strange. The company had closed early that day, which meant Daniel wasn't at work. And suddenly, every small doubt Emma had been trying to ignore began to connect together in a way she could no longer dismiss. But Emma still didn't know the truth. Not yet. And the moment she finally discovered what was really happening would change her life forever. In divorce cases, the truth rarely appears all at once. Sometimes it reveals itself slowly until one moment when everything suddenly becomes clear. For Emma, that moment came only a few days after she began noticing the strange changes in Daniel's behavior. That evening, Daniel once again told her he had to work late. By now, Emma had started paying attention to the details. Something about his explanation felt rehearsed, almost too casual. So instead of questioning him, she simply nodded and told him to drive safely. But that night, Emma made a decision she never thought she would have to make in her own marriage. She followed him. Keeping a distance behind his car, Emma watched as Daniel drove across town. Her heart was pounding so loudly she could barely focus on the road ahead. For a moment, she wondered if she was making a terrible mistake. Maybe she would discover something innocent. Maybe all of her suspicions would turn out to be nothing more than fear and imagination. But then, Daniel's car slowed down and turned into a quiet residential street. A street Emma knew very well, because it was the same street where her sister Lily lived. Emma's hands began to tremble as she parked a short distance away. She watched as Daniel stepped out of his car and walked toward the front door. Within seconds, the door opened, and Lily was standing there. Emma sat frozen in her car, unable to move, unable to even breathe properly as she watched what happened next. Daniel stepped inside the house. The door closed behind him, and in that moment, Emma understood everything. Still hoping she was wrong, Emma walked slowly toward the house. The lights were on inside, and through the partially open window she could hear voices. At first, they were quiet. Then she heard laughter, not the polite laughter of family members, but the kind of laughter shared between two people who believed they were completely alone. Emma didn't need to see anything else. The truth was already clear. The two people she trusted most in the world had betrayed her, her husband, and her own sister. The confrontation that followed was painful, messy, and emotional in ways that are difficult to describe. Emma demanded answers, and both Daniel and Lily struggled to explain something that had no real explanation. They claimed the relationship had only started recently. They said it had been a mistake. But for Emma, those words meant nothing anymore. Because betrayal like that doesn't just break a marriage, it breaks trust that has existed for an entire lifetime. When Emma eventually came to my office weeks later, she told me something I will never forget. She said losing her husband hurt, but losing her sister hurt far more. Divorce cases often involve anger between two people who once loved each other. But cases like Emma's remind us that betrayal sometimes comes from places we never expect, from the very people we believed would always protect us. Emma eventually moved on with her life. It took time, patience, and healing, but she slowly rebuilt the peace that had been taken from her. And as painful as the experience was, she told me something powerful before leaving my office for the last time. She said that sometimes the truth destroys the life you thought you had, but it also gives you the chance to build a stronger one. And in the end, that was exactly what Emma chose to do.